agenda. They are here for your purview. At this time, I'd like to call the November 20th, 2012 Planning Board meeting to order. The first item on the agenda are minutes from November 5th. Mr. Secretary.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to move the minutes from November 5th as revised.
Second.
Discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is decisions.
Approval not required.
I'm sorry, excuse me, approval not required. Okay, I misread my minutes. Approval not required. The applicant is Anna M. Dos Santos and Robert F. Pritchard to take 971 square feet from parcel 1B from 112 Shore Street, lot 1A, and add it to 98 Shore Street, lot 2A. Is there someone here for the applicant?
Good evening. My name is Kevin Clower. I'm an attorney with the Ahmet Law Firm. I'm representing Anna M. Dos Santos and Robert F. Pritchard in this matter. As you've mentioned, they're seeking to purchase, you'll have to excuse me because I could not find a whiteboard before I left the office today. But as your plans show, they're seeking to take 971 feet from lot 1A, or the former lot 1, and add it to the former lot 2 to create lot 2A.
Okay, are there any questions of the applicant? Any comments from the staff?
It's a fine plan.
Fine plan.
Just out of curiosity, why?
Increased square footage of the lot.
Yeah. So there isn't anything with setbacks, any incursions into setbacks or anything like that? Okay.
All right. Then I need a motion for the acceptance of this approval. Not required.
I move that we accept the approval not required plan before us.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries.
Thank you very much. Happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you. Now, I got it right, I think. The next item on the agenda is decision. Applicant Green Cove LLC and Falmouth Air Park Homeowners Association. Modification of a definitive plan and special permit to recombine 52.14 acres of land located at Lot 18 Timothy Bourne Parkway and the Falmouth Air Park designated open space, East Falmouth. Who did I ask to read that motion? Bob, would you be kind enough to read that motion?
Okay, November 20th, 2012 draft. Motion that the planning board vote to approve the application of Green Cove LLC in the Falmouth Air Park Homeowners Association on Article 25, planned residential development of the zoning bylaw for a plan entitled Definitive Subdivision Plan Modification for Lot 18, Open Space Parcel 6, and Open Space Parcel Z, Timothy Bourne Cartway, prepared for Falmouth Air Park Homeowners Association and Green Cove LLC, drawn by Falmouth Engineering, Inc., dated November 21st, 2011, revised September 7th, 2012, scale 1 inch equals 80 feet, with the following findings, waivers, and conditions below. On April 5th, 2012, the Falmouth Air Park Homeowners Association, Inc., Falmouth Air Park, together with Green Cove LLC, Green Cove, quote, filed an application with the town clerk requesting that the Falmouth Planning Board modify the terms and conditions of a special permit definitive plan decision issued on June 4th, 1986, and recorded at Barnstable Registry of Deeds in Book 5159, page 183, and requesting also that the Falmouth Planning Board approve a modification of the subdivision plan, which was the subject of that special permit, which subdivision plan is recorded at Barnstable County Registry of Deeds in Plan Book 419, pages 49 through 54, and Plan Book 419, pages 55 through 58. The intent and purpose of the application to amend definitive plan and special permit was to: A, allow the removal of an area of land shown on the original subdivision plan and required by the original special permit to be dedicated to open space, to be conveyed to Green Cove free and clear of the terms and conditions of the special permit, and free and clear of any requirement that it be dedicated to open space, and B, that an equal amount of area to be acquired by Falmouth Air Park from Green Cove be shown on the amended subdivision plan as being part of the Falmouth Air Park subdivision, and be made subject to the terms and conditions of the special permit, including the requirement that it be dedicated to open space. Based on the findings hereinafter set forth, and subject to the terms and conditions hereinafter set forth, the Planning Board has voted to approve the application for modification of the special permit and subdivision. Findings. 1. By the decision dated June 4th, 1986, and recorded at the Barnstable County Registry of Deeds at Book 5159, pages 183 through 189, the Falmouth Planning Board issued a special permit for the creation of a subdivision and approved certain plans recorded at Barnstable County Registry of Deeds, Plan Book 419, pages 49 through 54, and Plan Book 419, pages 55 through 58. The decision of the Planning Board approved creation of what is commonly known as the Falmouth Air Park. 2. The approved subdivision plan includes certain areas designated to be retained and preserved as open space, included Open Space Parcel 6 and Open Space Parcel Z. Open Space Parcel 6 and Z are located south and southwest of the runway, which services the Falmouth Air Park. 3. Also located in the southwest of the Falmouth Air Park runway is Lot 18, shown on a plan recorded at Barnstable Registry of Deeds at Plan Book 57, page 121, which lot is in the ownership of Green Cove and is not part of the Falmouth Air Park subdivision land, or subject to the special permit and open space restrictions governing the use of Falmouth Air Park land. 4. For purposes of improving airport safety and other reasons, Green Cove and Falmouth Air Park have presented plans and information to the Planning Board in support of their request that the portions of Open Space Parcels 6 and Z be conveyed to Green Cove free and clear of the terms and conditions of the special permit and restrictions with respect to Falmouth Air Park open space, and in exchange therefore, Falmouth Air Park would receive from Green Cove equal amounts of acreage consisting primarily of Lot 18, with the further provision that Lot 18 will be subject to the special permit and all restrictions relating to open space. 5. On April 5th, 2012, Green Cove and Falmouth Air Park filed an application for modification of the special permit and subdivision plans approved on June 4th, 1986, which modification would approve the creation of open space parcel X consisting of 15.32 acres from what was previously Lot 18 as a preclude to the conveyance of open space parcel X from Green Cove to Falmouth Air Park, with the understanding, agreement, and condition that thereafter open space parcel X would be subject to all terms and conditions of the original special permit, including the maintenance of open space parcel X and substitution for the release of Lot A as shown on the modified definitive plan, free and clear of all the terms and conditions of the original special permit and subdivision plan, including open space requirements. 6. Consistent with the intention of the applicants and as presented to the board, Green Cove's new Lot A would have the status as a single buildable lot, as the board has the authority to create such pursuant to Section 240-121 of the zoning bylaw. 7. The board finds that proposed modification of the special permit and modification of the subdivision plan to be in conformity with the standards of the Falmouth subdivision rules and regulations pursuant to waiver number 1 below and Article 25 of the zoning bylaw. 8. The board finds the application is consistent with Article 25 and that recreational activities will be preserved and protected. The overall design and residential amenities warrant special consideration. The development is consistent with the local comprehensive plan and designed in its space allocation and other features so as to produce a stable and desirable character integral with the site's natural features. 9. The board finds the application consistent with Article 5 planned residential development of the board subdivision rules and regulations in that approval of the subdivision plan will preserve the amount of open space required by the original special permit and subdivision plan. Waivers. 1. The Planning Board waives Article 6 design standards and Article 7 construction standards of the subdivision rules and regulations as it pertains to the frontage depicted on the plan for proposed Lot A. Decision. Based upon the information submitted and the findings here and above set forth, the Planning Board hereby votes to approve the requested modification of the special permit and a modification of the subdivision plan previously approved under decision dated June 5th, 1986, as hereinafter set forth. 1. Open space parcel X is approved as a separate, unbuildable parcel to be conveyed to Falmouth Air Park by Green Cove and shall be conveyed as such and dedicated and preserved as open space pursuant to the terms and conditions of the special permit dated June 5th, 1986, as fully and completely as if originally set forth in subdivision plans recorded at Plan Book 419, pages 49 through 54, and Plan Book 419, pages 55 through 58. 2. Upon the conveyance of open space parcel X by Green Cove to Falmouth Air Park, Lot A may be conveyed by Falmouth Air Park to Green Cove and shall be free and clear of any and all terms and conditions of the original special permit, shall no longer be part of and parcel of the Falmouth Air Park subdivision, and shall not be subject to any open space requirements set forth in the special permit or the original subdivision plan. 3. This permit and decision shall become fully operative upon the recording of all the following documents at the Barnstable County Registry of Deeds. A. The deed conveying open space parcel X to the Falmouth Air Park Homeowners Association, Inc., consistent with condition number 1 above. B. This decision, together with the definitive plan referenced above, absent the notation regarding a plan endorsed by the board, approval not required under the subdivision control law. C. The deed conveying Lot A to Green Cove LLC.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion.
I have no wind left.
Okay, before we vote, I asked Brian to briefly go over what has transpired since the last time we met, and the applicant asked for a continuance of this, just to make sure that we all understand what has transpired since then.
As we recall, it was scheduled for a decision a couple weeks ago or such. And I've had these back and forth correspondences with the attorneys representing Green Cove and attorneys representing the Air Park. And through those discussions, we arrived at this motion, conferred with council, I've conferred with the building commissioner, and we have a decision the board can render a positive motion.
Thank you. Further discussion? This vote requires because a special permit requires 5 affirmative votes. Mr. Latimer is not here and was not present at a hearing, so he couldn't have voted anyway, and Mr. Dryer is unable to attend tonight. All those in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next item on the application
Mr. Chairman, was that a 5-9?
Yes, it was.
Yeah, okay. Very good. Thank you.
Yes, sir. The next item on the agenda is a decision, the applicant Tradesman's Realty Trust, site plan review to construct new buildings and utilize existing building for contractor storage and office use on 1.3 acres located at 740 Thomas B. Landers Road, East Falmouth. Doug?
Yes. November 16, 2012 draft, Tradesman Realty Trust Site Plan Review, 740 Thomas B. Landers Road, 1504-14000. Motion that the planning board vote to approve the application of Tradesman Realty Trust under Article 39, Site Plan Review of the zoning bylaw for a plan entitled Site Plan, 740 Thomas B. Landers Road, Falmouth, Massachusetts, prepared by BSS Design Incorporated, dated October 10, 2012, revised October 30th, 2012, scale 1 inches equals 20 feet, with the following findings and conditions. Findings: the applicant proposes to construct 2 new buildings and rehabilitate an existing building for contractors' yard offices and storage on 2.61 acres of light industrial C-zone land on Thomas B. Landers Road, with the associated parking, drainage, and landscaping. An access and utility easement of 5,433 square feet is shown for that part of the site plan located on Lot 1, which is made part of this plan and subject to this decision pursuant to condition number 2 below. The septic system is located outside of the local coastal pond overlay district, and denitrifying systems are not required. The plan depicts the recommendations of the Department of Natural Resources in its referral dated October 19, 2012. Therefore, no corridor easement shall be required. The Planning Board finds the stormwater drainage system has been designed by a registered professional engineer to accommodate runoff generated on the site. Slope stabilization has been provided for the proposed fill at the southwest corner of Lot 2. The board finds this is adequate. Thomas B. Landers Road is a public way, and the applicant is proposing to use an existing driveway and construct a second access to the site. Proposed new curb cut and any modification to the existing curb cut shall require a curb cut opening permit from the Department of Public Works, Engineering Division, per condition number 3 below. The Planning Board finds the lighting and landscaping plan shown on the plan to be adequate. Evergreen trees such as white pines will create a buffer between the site and adjacent residences. Foundation plantings will be provided, subject to condition number 4 below. Parking lots will not have light fixtures except those attached to the buildings and shall be directed in such a manner so not to shine onto Thomas Landers Road or adjacent properties. The Planning Board finds that the majority of project-generated traffic occurs in the off-peak hours for Thomas B. Landers Road. Nevertheless, the plan shows a bike rack and on-site lunch facilities will be provided. Therefore, no additional traffic mitigation will be required. Conditions. The plan must be constructed as approved. Any changes shall be reviewed by the Planning Board to determine if a modification of this decision is necessary. Pursuant to 240-183B of the zoning bylaw, no permit for full or partial occupancy shall be issued until the Planning Board is satisfied that the conditions of this approval have been met. Number 2, prior to the issuance of occupancy permits, evidence of the recording of the access and utility easements in favor of Lot 2 shall be provided to the Planning Board. Number 3, the applicant shall obtain a curb cut opening permit from the Department of Public Works, Engineering Division to construct the new and modify the existing curb cut prior to the issuance of a building permit. All work performed within the public right-of-way shall be conducted under the direction of the town engineer. Number 4, prior to the issuance of building permits, the applicant shall submit a revised landscape plan showing foundation plantings to the Planning Board for approval.
May I have a second?
Second.
Discussion? I have one question for Mr. Curry. The revised landscaping plan, you can approve that without coming back to us administratively.
You want to change the words planning board to town planner then? In your motion?
Comments on that?
I'm okay with that.
You okay with what?
Changing it to town planner instead of planning board?
Any other
That's
comment?
number 4 we're talking about?
That's number 4, yeah. Occasionally, these things can be done administratively, is my understanding. And since the revised landscape plan showing foundation planting, that's a relatively minor adjustment to the plan. How does everybody feel about that?
And I believe that was that a suggestion by someone in the public? Or was
No.
No,
Someone here.
I think we did.
Especially because the view from the street is extremely buffered with all these trees. I
Right.
think that's appropriate.
Right, okay.
I'm fine
So,
with that too.
then I need a motion to change, to amend item number 4 under conditions to change planning board to town planner.
So if you just accept that correction as part of the main motion. You don't need a second.
Okay.
Say that,
Second. You don't necessarily accept that as part of his main motion.
And I do.
okay, okay, I'm with you, okay.
Second.
All right, so then, well, we're not needing a motion, he's changing
Okay.
the reading of this particular
Main
motion.
Okay.
So I'll revise number 4 to say, Prior to the issuance of building permits, the applicant shall provide a revised landscape plan showing foundation plantings to the town planner for approval.
Okay, so now we'll have that straight. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Okay, next on the agenda,
You wanted to mention,
I need, we need to take something out of order here. Pat,
okay, I move that we take correspondence out of order.
Second?
discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Correspondence. We have several items of correspondence. We will read a letter from Ms. Moynihan first. To Ralph Herbst, Chairman, Planning Board. Dear Mr. Herbst, I represent Howard and Lois Cooper, owners of property at 30 Inkberry Lane, North Falmouth, Wild Harbor Estates. The property is subject of a lot coverage special permit issued in 2004, copy enclosed. That permitted an addition to the existing single-family dwelling and an increase in lot coverage from 19% to 21%. The lot contains 15,160 square feet of land area. Mr. and Mrs. Cooper are proposing to add an attached shed to their home. This shed addition will add 177.6 square feet of additional lot coverage, or an additional 1% lot coverage by structures. The shed addition will add an additional 47.8 square feet of coverage by pavement or pavers adjacent to the existing driveway, or 1% more coverage by structures. Pavement and parking, 225.4 square feet more overall. In addition, Mr. and Mrs. Cooper are proposing a renovation to a portion of the second floor of their home over the existing garage, which will not affect lot coverage. Also, the owner is proposing to relocate the rinse station further to the rear of the house, which is now existing and already included in existing lot coverage. Given that this change is relatively minor in nature, with the additional lot coverage of only 177.6 square feet for structures and 225.4 square feet overall, Mr. and Mrs. Cooper are requesting that the board review and approve this change administratively. Thank you sincerely, Laura M. Moynihan. Now, for those of you who were not on the board back in 2004, lot coverage special permits were issued by the planning board. Subsequent to that, it was passed off and now is subject to a special permit by the Zoning Board of Appeals. Okay, so we probably need to recommend to Ms. Moynihan that this be referred to the Zoning Board of Appeals. Am I right on that, Mr. Curry?
Two things. If in fact, I'd like to cover two. If in fact the board is inclined to vote this as administrative approval, and if council agrees that you can do that, then we can move this right along. If in fact, and we're going to come back to the board, next week or 2 weeks, whatever it might be. If it needs to go to the Board of Appeals, then it goes to the Board of Appeals. But at least we can take care of it here if the board is so inclined to look at this as a.
Okay, Pat and I are probably the ones that recall what is involved with issuing a special permit. Pat, I'll let you go first if you want.
I'd have to see the plan to refresh my memory on that.
Okay.
That was, what, 8 years ago?
04.
4.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I recall that in consideration of these special permits, we can pass that along. In consideration of these special permits, there's several things that have to be considered, which Ms. Moynihan mentioned in this, in her letter, and that is that, for instance, one of the issues about it is shadows being cast on an adjacent lot. Now, she mentioned here that there's an additional renovation going up on the second floor of their home over the existing garage. Not being able to look at that and seeing whether or not that would be an issue or not, that's just one of the things which gives me reservations about doing it here, not making a site visit, and not passing it on to the Zoning Board of Appeals. So that's just the way I feel about it. But we can, this discussion is open. I know it's a little awkward for you because you're not familiar with issuing special permits under those, how it's done.
And we have 27% total lot coverage now without the proposed?
Going up to 28.
Total lot coverage is going to be, let's see, it was 19 and it went to 21. Then an additional 1% for structures,
I'm including the paving when I say 27.
Yeah, there's-
or 1%, yeah. Let's see.
Just remember, the special permit is to increase your coverage by structures anywhere from 20 to 25%, not on the back, just regarding that.
Okay.
Right, special permit can allow it up to 25%.
I think,
Jim?
I think we really need to send this to the ZBA. I've been watching them deal with these small percentages, and I think it needs to be aired appropriately with abutters and notification and the whole process.
Okay. Yes, Pat?
I agree, and I'm looking at the flood zone lines all over here too. That,
Okay,
I think maybe that needs to be taken into account for any kind of increase.
okay. Ms. Moynihan?
Yes, thank you, and thank you for considering this tonight. It's really fine, whoever reviews it. I know Brian had mentioned that the zoning board is issuing the special permits now. The only reason I had filed the letter was because the permit itself said that any changes had to be handled by the planning board. It is a de minimis change. If the board feels that the zoning board should be taking it up administratively, that's fine. I mean, we're not here to argue with that. The only reason I submitted the application was because that's what the permit said. But having said that, it is more time for, the applicant, obviously. The change to the second floor is just replacing existing structure, but, and the lot coverage allows up to 25% by special permit. So the lot coverage is not maxed out. It is a 15,000 square foot lot in Wild Harbor Estates. So it's not a 7,500 square foot lot, which I think the bylaw was looking at addressing mainly. But having said all that, I think it's a relatively simple thing. If you feel that it should go to the Board of Appeals, then that's fine. We'll file it with them, and as long as we can somehow figure out how to adjust that special permit, so be it.
Okay, thank you. Further discussion. I'm trying to recall the criteria that you entertain when you issue this special permit, which is now in front of the Zoning Board of Appeals. Another one of the criteria was obstructing views for public ways.
Views and vistas no more detrimental to the neighborhood. There's a whole...
And also, I think whether or not the structure itself is compatible and consistent with other neighborhood structures. I think that was one of them
Right,
also. So,
right.
there's a lot of things to be considered here that I think the Zoning Board of Appeals would want to consider. So that's my feeling.
Let's send it right along.
So, do you think we need to move to do that? Okay,
Got clear understanding.
okay, all right. Thank you, Ms. Moynihan.
Thank you for thinking about it.
I'm going to give this back to Brian. I'll leave it in here, okay. I need a motion now to resume, to revert back to the original agenda. Oh, excuse me, I got the rest of correspondence.
There should be a letter from Jerry Rogers.
Yeah, I'm sorry, that's my mistake. My mistake. We do have some other correspondence that we should finish. One is a letter from Joseph E. Costa, Ph.D., Executive Director.
There should be a letter from Jerry Rogers.
Yeah, I know, I see that.
He's here tonight. for the-
Oh, he's here? Oh, okay. All right, we'll take that one first then. Sorry. A letter from Jerry E. Rogers to Mr. Brian Curry, members of the planning board. From Jerry Rogers of Falmouth Climate Control Self-Storage, located at 689 Gifford Street. Phase 2 construction, addition to existing building. Ladies and gentlemen, originally the planning board approval was given to add an addition that would provide an additional 20,000 square feet of space. It measures 200 by 50 with 2 floors. After being here and in business for 2.5 years, I have determined a need for additional outside access units. In order to accomplish this, I have made the building smaller to accommodate a driveway that would provide access to these units. Please see the attached plan. This modification does not change the lot coverage in any way. It simply downsizes the structure. Therefore, I am looking to hopefully get this modification approved administratively. If not, please advise so that I can proceed appropriately. So here is a drawing. Is it up there?
If that's the original site.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Mr. Rogers can
Oh,
explain
okay.
the change.
Yeah, okay. All right. Mr. Rogers,
Good evening.
good evening.
Originally, the original sign-off by all departments was for an 80,000 square foot building. The construction was to be completed in 3 phases. The first phase, which is in existence now, is a 200 by 100 building, 40,000 square foot. The footprint is 200 by 100, 2 floors. The phase 2 would be the south side of the building, and it is a 50 by 200 foot addition. And phase 3 would be on the north side of the building, another 50 by 200 square foot addition. What I'm requesting here is, across the back of the property, there's a loading dock, there's access, and what I'm doing is taking a 15-foot section out of the building here and bringing that in 100 feet, which would be a paved area. By doing this, I'm creating access to outside accessible units along this wall. Currently, there are 4 outside access units. Didn't think that there would be a lot of people that would be looking for them or, desiring that kind of thing because of the climate control is our selling point. The entire building is heated and air conditioned. So I didn't really think it would be an issue or I have to have any people looking for it. I do. So it's a slight modification in regard to literally cutting a 15 by 100 foot section of the building out and paving it to create those driveway for access to those units.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I'll pass this drawing down.
Doesn't change the footprint, doesn't change the lot coverage.
Okay.
And again, the entire building, all 3 phases were permitted with the original application.
So it doesn't change the lot coverage because you're going to pave that?
That's correct.
I got it, okay. The questions for Mr. Rogers?
question, does this rise to a level of modification that requires a reopening or review by the planning board? That's your condition number one that you just had for the
Yeah.
Tradesman Realty Trust. Any modification shall be subject to review and modification if you so determine. And so the question is, does this rise to that modification level? If it doesn't, then we'll just deal with Mr. Rogers and...
Administratively?
Correct.
Okay, Doug?
So, how will you address any drainage issues? Will we be removing gutters, and if so, would they be replaced?
Yes, when the expansion goes on, there's currently along this south side, everything is contained. There are drainage pipes. This building right now stops right here, and along there, there's gutters. With downspouts, they go into a drainage system which enters into a control valve before it gets into the retention basin.
Right.
These will be taken down, extended to the outside edge of the building, where there is, when we originally did this plan, we already have a pipe in place that connects there, and it'll just be attached at that point.
And the roof pitch will work with the
Oh, sure,
new
the
system?
roof pitch is not changing. The actual, when we put this addition on, the roof is actually going to be tied into the existing roof. It's going to be under it, through it, and it's not going to be stepped down or anything like that.
I see.
So it's just a continual 12 pitch.
Okay.
Pat?
Yeah, I don't see a problem in doing it administratively, because Brian would look at those sorts of details, and it's not adding on to anything we've already passed. It's simply opening it up to the air.
I don't have a problem with it either. I think it's interesting to be asked for less rather than more for once, so.
Jim, if I need to pass that over here. Let these people see it. Okay, further questions or comments from the board? Anything for Mr. Curry?
No, I'll just work with the applicant in the filling office, and we'll just get that
But in this case, we need a motion to make it administratively.
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
So I would move that the change can be handled administratively in the planning department.
Second.
Okay, further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Yes, sir.
Have a great holiday, folks.
You too. Okay. Two other items of correspondence here. One is a letter from Joseph E. Costa, Ph.D., Executive Director of Buzzards Bay National Estuary Program. Dear municipal official, 1991 Buzzards Bay National Estuary Program, a unit of the Massachusetts Coastal Zone Management, developed the Buzzards Bay Comprehensive Conservation and Management Plan. It's a lengthy letter. I don't think it's necessary to read it, other than the fact that they have submitted to us a Comprehensive Conservation and Management Plan 2012 update. This is the final draft, dated October 24th, 2012. It's the executive summary. We invite you to review the document and ask that you provide us any comments by Monday, December 17th. On the web page link above, there is an outline form which you can provide comments. So if anyone on the planning board wishes to review this and make comments, they can do so. I would think that we would, if you want to make comments and represent the planning board, that you come back to us and say, these are my comments on this document, and then we sign off as a planning board. My guess is that this has also gone to the Conservation Commission and other, let's just see. The distribution is the municipal boards of selectmen, conservation commissions, planning boards, board of health, harbor masters, natural resource officers, and other staff. So we would not be the only people reviewing that. That will be on file up in the office. The final final bit of correspondence is a memo from Frank Duffy, Town Council, to all department heads, boards, and commissions. Subject, quasi-judicial public hearing. Quasi-judicial public hearing. The boards and commissions perform many functions in serving the public. Occasionally, a board or commission must act as a quasi-judicial, in a quasi-judicial capacity. This memorandum sets forth guidelines for the conduct of quasi-judicial hearing by the town boards and commissions. It is not an exhaustive discussion of the subject. The Office of Town Council is always available to help a board or commission prepare for and conduct a quasi-judicial hearing with reference to specific procedural matters and questions. What is a quasi-judicial hearing? I think it'd probably be a good idea if we all had copies of this, Brian, electronically. I'm sorry?
Yes.
Okay. Would you like me to read this, or are you satisfied with an electronic copy of your own?
I'd just soon read it on my own.
You just soon read it on your own? Okay. All right, let me just finish this last little statement where it says what it is. A board or commission acts as a quasi-judicial capacity when it considers the application of general law, bylaw, rule, or regulation to a specific individual, interest, or situation. The board or commission acts quasi-judicially when, like a court, it adjudicates the rights or liabilities of individuals in particular circumstance based on the evidence presented at the hearing. And I'll give you, well, there are examples. And you'd have to, petitions for special permits and variances before the Board of Appeals. Oh, here's one for the planning board. Applications of subdivision approvals before the planning board, and planned residential developments and special permits of the zoning bylaw. Okay, so this is probably something that we all need to be familiar with, because occasionally we do that very thing. Okay, that's it.
You want to just pass
That's
this
it for
down?
correspondence, and we have one more tiny bit of correspondence from our assistant town planner.
Yeah, she says, "Hi, guys, thank you so much for the adorable overalls. They will come in handy when we put her to work siding this summer." Good call on the Eloise.
Competition,
part.
Doug.
We didn't have that one yet, so it's a thank you note from Marlene.
Okay. Thank you. Some of you, I guess, have had the privilege of seeing the baby. I have not, so.
She's a cutie.
Maybe we can get an electronic picture now and then.
You have all the pictures of the office, you get a picture of the day usually.
Okay,
And,
great.
we'd like to show them.
All right, we're back on,
I move that we go back to the order of our agenda.
okay,
Second?
discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained. Next item on the agenda is discussion. Article 3, wind energy systems. I would like to start out by thanking Pat for a great job of presentation at town meeting, and Bob for your assistance in the visuals, and Brian for your work, and of course Marlene was not here. It was according to the town newspaper. It took an hour for us to discuss that, and we were unable to convince town meeting that it was prudent to pass Article 3. So here we are, and we have to make some decisions. I don't want to get into a debate about changes that we might want to make, or further what's the word I'm thinking of, further investigation as to research, I guess, of town, of wind energy systems worldwide, and which is what we did. What I'd like to discuss tonight is how you want to go forward, and when you would like to start putting this on the agenda.
There was a lot of discussion and comments that were made that, frankly, I didn't think made a lot of sense. when you're trying to put something in a bylaw for things that don't exist yet, like quiet 300 kilowatt turbines, that's like making regulations for the flying cars like the Jetsons. I mean, they haven't been invented. So how can we write that into a bylaw? I thought we did a good job trying to stress the fact that this is a good bylaw, that it was going to protect people in the future, that if it needed to be amended, that it could be amended, that it was prudent to pass it at this town meeting so that we would not be, in terms of one town meeting member, be under the gun. I would think that we would be more under the gun in an April town meeting with only 3 weeks before the moratorium expires. I really didn't see a whole lot of places where we could make amendments to this bylaw. It was very apparent to me that there is a very pro-wind coalition out there that would like to see the current bylaw stay, because that gives them the right to put pretty much anything they want anywhere. The size issue, the 250 kilowatts and wanting to go to 300, I don't think people were aware that we heard testimony from people next to a 100 kilowatt turbine that were affected by it. So there were a lot of things that were said that I didn't feel were well vetted, and that I also thought that the discussion was cut short when I was called for a vote, because after that speaker, I had wished to get up and respond to some of the things that she had said, but because the vote was called, I didn't get that opportunity.
Jim?
Well, I think I agree with everything you just said, but I think the biggest problem is with the selectmen still dealing with the existing turbines and that thrown in. I heard that interwoven into all the arguments, so it made it really unclear exactly the priorities. Obviously, that needs to be dealt with. And what I'd look for is some direction from selectmen when they're going to come up with a solution to that problem, so we could then take it and move forward. As long as they can weave that one in and out, it's going to be really hard to tie this thing down and focus on really the real issues, because that's what I heard that brought up as a point to just about every speaker. So I think that's pretty clear. Either we've got to get the selectmen to suggest an amendment they can live with right now, and then we can move forward, or we wait until they solve their issue, and then we move forward.
Doug?
I think the cards were stacked against us because of the controversy with the selectmen. That's unfortunate. Hope that gets resolved. But I think there are things that we can work on. I think that a good point was made about the fact that the Met Tower may not be required and might be, cumbersome expense. So I think that's one thing we should look at removing. I think, I know the board has decided, people are tired of hearing about it, but I think we should revisit the 51% and consider removing that in lieu of stronger sound measurement enforcement options and, site-specific, planning. So those are my thoughts on it originally.
Okay, Pat?
Okay. I would have to say right out that I was not convinced that it would be passed at this town meeting, because something this large and complex usually isn't. But I was disappointed at the lack of feedback, the depth of feedback that we got from town meeting, because we usually get a lot more detailed feedback out of town meeting. We knew we were going to have trouble with the 51%. I would have expected we can live with 25% to make sure that we've defined accessory, but we can't live with 51 because you're interfering with people's ability to pay back the turbines, or whatever reasoning was behind it. We didn't get that reasoning. I don't have a problem with the Met Tower, because we had heard that, doing away with it, that requirement, because we had heard that there's enough information out there that simulations are readily at hand. We can require the information, but we don't have to necessarily require that they put a Met Tower up if there are other ways of getting it.
We can also waive that requirement, too.
Yeah. So I did hear those two things, but there was just a resounding lack of the kind of comment that we would get, the amount of comment that we would normally get for a bylaw of this size. And so I did question a few people. And what I got is that the members are just plain scared because they don't know what the town's responsibility is going to have to be with the options and with the lawsuit, and they want just everything either to go away or for it to be settled before they ever make a decision that has anything to do with wind turbines. True or not, I don't know. Very, very, very minuscule sampling that I had. But I kind of got that feeling of the people there during town meeting.
Doug?
I think that's true, but it's unfortunate too, because that was really excluded from our whole process. We're planning for the future, and they're stressing out about the past, and that still interfered with our process.
Bob?
There were two speakers that mentioned how they were anti-wind turbine and yet urged town meeting to vote against our bylaw, which to me didn't make any sense. I would think that you would want to vote for this bylaw as some sort of protection at this point so that you don't run the risk of having the old bylaw come into effect if the revised bylaw, if we revise it at Springtown meeting, does not pass either.
Mm-hmm.
I was just taken aback by that. There were two speakers that said that.
My comments are, I understand what you're saying, and I think they're pertinent and right on. I think more discussion would have been advantageous to our position. There were several comments about us, the town meeting, about the planning board hurrying up and jamming them, holding a gun to their head and coming up with this, and they wanted more time and do it right and all that kind of thing. And I think town meeting forgot that we had 2 years of moratorium, and we've been working on this for 2 years, and that's not jamming it down anybody's throat, and that's not hurrying up or throwing something at them last minute. If there was anything that was last minute, in my opinion, it was the selectmen announcing at the 11th hour and 59th minute that they were not going to support this when we had our joint meeting. That was something that, especially after the options group had said that they were taking relocation off the table. So, I think we did our homework very well. I'm proud of what we did. There probably are circumstances here beyond our control that we just had to live with. We were unable to convince enough people either at the precinct meetings or at the town meeting that the bylaw was. This was a good time to pass our bylaw, and then it would be amendable in the future. If for those of you who went to precinct meetings, did you have a feeling about pro or con for this thing, and how well were your precinct meetings attended? Doug?
Well, the first precinct meeting that I went to was precinct 3, and there wasn't a single question, and that told me really that they hadn't had a chance to read it. And I think another part of our problem at town meeting may have been the fact that although the town meeting members may have read it, I don't think they fully comprehended the whole implication of it.
Yeah.
So they were maybe afraid to vote for it because they weren't really sure what they were really voting for, because it's complicated.
It is complicated. Any other comments about your precinct meetings? Yeah, Jim?
Oh, I thought there was definitely special interests. There are people that want to build wind turbines at every single meeting pleading their case very hard. At least the ones I went to, I saw them at several of them. And so I think they were well organized. And I don't think it was really clear that some of these people actually were there because they want to build wind turbines. I think we actually have a battle against some special interests.
So
I think we need to be.
What you're saying is that they felt that our bylaw was too restrictive?
Yeah, I mean, that was the whole, things were even out of order at some of the meetings. They got up and started, giving they were made a presentation instead of asking questions.
Uh-huh.
They were allowed to give a presentation.
Yeah, right,
And so they were well-prepared, and they had an agenda. And there was a small group, and they were at most of the meetings they were there.
Right.
So it's the same people everywhere.
Yeah.
And I think on top of that, with the selectmen saying, hey, they're against it, really made it an uphill battle.
Right.
The two things almost made it impossible.
Bob?
I found the same thing.
Yeah.
That there were certain people with their interest in wind turbines that did sort of give presentations and actually gave out some misinformation. One of them was about the 300, the small turbines, the 600 watt.
No, 300 watt.
300 watt
Yeah.
turbines, that you could put it on the property line and blah, 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 blah. And we have laws that would take care of that.
Yeah.
It would be the same type of nuisance thing that would prevent you from roasting coffee in your garage.
Yeah.
So it isn't that people could just put these things up anywhere they wanted, because there are other bylaws that cover that.
Right.
And that was made a point of, and it didn't get rebutted.
Yeah, Doug?
Just the same, that's another item that I think we might want to revisit, and, there's no real reason to exempt them, so maybe that's something else we should reconsider.
To exempt the municipal use?
No,
the 300.
Allowing up to 300.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
oh, I see,
Yeah.
without
Yeah,
a
like
permit.
reconsider.
Without
Make
a
it so that everyone has to have a permit.
And I think I agree with you, it was more of a no-on-3 coalition, rather than, debating and discussing. It was just, many minds were made up that it was just a bad idea to vote for it, and I think I agree with you, there's just a pro-wind group that had a good plan.
Well, then, okay, so now we've talked a little bit about, reviewed what happened, and without going into further detail, we'd want everybody here when we start looking at it again. When would you like to start looking at it again? After the beginning of the year? Do you want, I believe the selectmen are getting a draft of a final recommendations in December from the, or early January? Early
Yes,
January
yes, I know.
for the options, from the options group? Would you want to wait until after that before we start, Pat?
We're running into a big deadline here, guys. You know it, I know it. The moratorium goes away May 1st. And we're running out of time simply because of the time span when we can get another article into town meeting. And one has to assume that there may be a special town meeting, so we might have until February. Otherwise, whatever we have has to be in there in January, the first part of January. I don't know the actual date. So we truly are running into a time bind here. And if we don't get some kind of changes together that might be acceptable, or if, in fact, whatever we put together is voted down again, remember, we revert to what is already there, which is what got us into the trouble to begin with. And so then the question is, how are we going to handle that? Because we cannot get another moratorium in place. And so we have to very responsibly, I think, talk about what options might be there. And, I mean, I can throw out a number of them, but like Ralph said, I think we ought to have the whole board here to do anything like that. I mean, we can just say, well, okay, fine. If people want their wind turbines all over the place, well, fine. It's 250 kilowatts, and they can be in any zoning district on any lot that will meet the requirements that we write into the bylaw. So there you go, have at it. And that's kind of sour grapes on our part to say that, is my way of thinking. I'm not really for that. We have to decide whether we want to keep on with accessory, and then how we want to define accessory that might meet town meeting acceptance without feeling that we're taking away an income source from somebody. If we want to, I'm throwing out options here, people, that for you to think about, even though we don't have two members here tonight. And let's say, okay, we don't want to have the constriction of an accessory use. because that met opposition. Well, then maybe we just want to think about putting turbines only on light industrial and public use lands and stay away from residential people.
Right, I
So
do
these are
do
all
not want
kinds
to
of
get
options,
into
you
that
know?
tonight.
No, that's the
What I
thing.
want to talk about is timeline.
Okay.
Any suggestions, Brian?
Well, I think Jim's
Yeah,
waiting on.
I'd be interested in, not discussing, but maybe if there is some additional expert testimony or having people come in. Obviously, we were thinking of accessory use as a way to keep, having power plants all over the place. But if these things can be controlled by height restrictions, additional sound restrictions, just some engineering numbers that we could keep it, accomplish the same goal and get rid of that issue, I'm in favor of it, but we might need some input on that. I mean, we want to all get the same goal.
I want to talk about timeline right now.
No, I'm saying we should have-
When do you want to start
Immediately.
doing these things?
What I'm saying
That's what I
immediately,
wanna
what I'm
know.
saying, I'm saying that we could do those issues about if there are additional engineering or expertise, there's no reason why we couldn't deal with that as soon as possible.
Okay,
That's my point.
yes, Doug.
I agree completely, we need to do it right away, sooner the better, so that there's no excuse or people can say that, we were rushing it at the last minute. The sooner we can revise it and get something that works, the better.
Okay. Brian?
You'll be meeting on November 27th. You'll be meeting on December 11th and the 18th. The warrant for the annual town meeting probably closes the first week of January. You might get the first week of January, so it's 4 meetings.
November 27th, December 7th?
December
11th.
27th of November, December 11th. Unless you want to meet later on, December 4th at 8 o'clock, I'll come down with the Historic Districts Commission. That didn't quite work last.
December 11 and December 18.
After that, it'll probably be in the first week
Wait a
of
minute.
January after the holidays. So that gives you 4 meetings.
Yeah.
So you just may want to prioritize the next meeting. Let's just tackle this one issue. So I'm seeing 3, seeing the accessory 51%.
Well, I think I want to get all 7 of us here before we prioritize.
Well, you may not have that luxury. My recommendation to the board is that, you're a quorum of 4. And if the other members know it's on the agenda and opt not to attend, well.
Well, they wouldn't opt not to attend, but they,
You need to move forward, that's what I'm saying.
Okay.
You don't have any meetings with us.
Okay.
Having a full complement, my recommendation. So if you want, we can start next week with,
yeah, though I guess my question is,
one issue.
what's on these, agenda on these meetings, is anything big?
On the 27th, you have a definitive plan, small definitive plan, public hearing for the Rollins Code.
The 27th?
Yes, next week.
Okay.
I was also going to give you, just as Marlene gave you the slideshow on subdivision control, I was going to give you the slideshow on site plan. You can still do that, it's about an hour, but it's such a little training session. Or we can skip that and just move into wind turbines, and we can have maybe a little discussion about what's a spot zone. There's things on the list of things to do we went over in the office, I'm trying to schedule in. But next week, the only regulatory matter you have is the definitive. Your decisions are done.
The 11th and the 18th of December, they're wide open?
I'm anticipating some plans coming in, as we discussed. There might be some site plans coming in, which is why
Yeah.
I want to get you some training before the big plans. There's some big plans looming out there, coming in. You're probably going to be hearing them in December,
And there's site plan reviews
and special permits.
and special permits. Well,
So my recommendation is this, start immediately. Hey, I've been to almost over 50 town meetings. Some you win, some you lose, and
Oh, yeah.
some draws.
yeah.
And the beauty of town meeting is, there's going to be another one right on the corner. So this one didn't vote for you, just keep soldiering on, you'll be fine. And it's just, pick it up. If you don't want to make, you don't have to make any changes, as the thought said. If you want to address some of the supposed concerns that some of the members had, you can do that. Some of the stuff out there was red herrings, but you can make these amendments to adjust to that. The big issue, I think, out there was this accessory. We can either explain it better, that is the way to size the turbine to be used on the lot. Instead of 51%, you might just say, okay, it's accessory to the principal use, and it can be no larger, its rated capacity can be no larger than twice the annual electrical consumption of the principal use.
Yeah.
If I use 50,000 watts a year, well, you can have a 100,000 kilowatt machine.
Yeah.
If you use 5% of it, you don't count. But
Yeah, right.
at least sizes it to the principal use. Those are such of options you might start talking about.
Okay. All right, so then I think it's the consensus of the board that we start on our November 27th meeting with an agenda item to review the wind turbine bylaw.
All right, we'll start again, I think, with purpose. Everything flows from the purpose. And we'll go back to, okay, stick with accessory. That's still the command decision, then we'll have a revised accessory definition.
Okay, so let's do all of the other things first, and as the last item on the agenda be, as it is tonight, the discussion for Article 3. So so those people can leave, and we will go ahead and get down to work. Yeah, Jim?
I would like to hear some testimony, other than the people that are proposing to build them in town, but from wind turbine companies, what functions what size does it have to do to make sense? Okay, they kept talking about that our restrictions would make it so they couldn't do anything. Well, let's hear from a wind turbine company, based on sound economic principles, how big a wind turbine has to be to make sense. And then we can use that as a judgment. They just eliminated the control issue of accessory use at all, but we got to find out what they're talking about. What limit is there? If they're saying that it has to be unlimited, then I'm going to have trouble with this for a long, long time. But if there's a level that you can put in, I don't even put you a number, X amount of kilowatts in it, and it's productive, and it has a return on investment, I'd like to hear that. From an outside expert, not somebody in town who has an opinion on it.
Well, there are all sorts of financials out there. We can just give them.
Okay.
I don't think we have time to go procure an expert.
You bring us the information is what I'm asking for.
Some financials, your typical return on equity, return on your investment, all those things that go into building one. Typically as a power plant. We'll find some financials for turbines.
I think Woods Hole Research Center would be a good start there, because those people are super technical expertise, have, and that's a medium size.
The bank wants to make money.
Yeah, wind farms, my understanding, large wind farms receive governmental subsidies.
Oh,
and they're not appropriate to this bylaw.
Right.
We're talking about one wind turbine, and what's the payback over 20 years or something? Yes, Doug?
I know Jim just mentioned like outside of town experts, but we might also consider guys like Ron Smolowitz, who has a 50 kilowatt. We could ask him how that pays his bills, why he personally related to me that he'd like to go up to 100, because the 50 isn't quite doing it for him. So, there is local expertise we can get too that will give us a real explanation of why people need what they feel they need.
Mm-hmm.
So I wouldn't be surprised if he'd be willing to share some more information as he did with me.
Sure. Okay. All right, so,
Start
That-
next week?
I'm sorry?
Start next week?
That's next week, yeah, that's right, next week, right. Okay. Releases, are there any releases? No. Committee reports, anybody have anything? I missed the third night of town meeting, and I have no idea whether the Community Preservation Committee articles passed or not.
I think they all did with discussion.
Yeah,
They did?
no, they pulled a couple of them. They held a couple.
There was one, oh, they held a couple.
They held, yeah.
The Police Athletic League, that one was going to, there were some issues about that because they,
But most, I think, went under the blanket.
did they?
I think even the
Okay.
ones that were held did pass, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, I think it might have, okay, all right, well, anyway,
I may be wrong, but I think that.
okay. Yeah, I guess so, that's right, yeah, I guess the blanket did cover those. Is there any new business, anything somebody wants brought up at a future meeting? Correspondence, we've already done. I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting's adjourned. Happy Thanksgiving to our resident reporter and our